Okay. Okay. Can I start? Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for the slight delay. We've got a little bit of technical difficulty in that the cameras are not moving to the individual speakers. Although we'll see the people on Zoom, the speakers here will not be on the camera nor on the podium, but it will be able to hear everybody. So I apologize. So before we begin, we acknowledge that we're in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people on this land, and we show respect to them today. As we've learned from our First Nation partners, it's important to stress that we are accepting our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared people. We, like all peoples, must accept that we are stewards of creation and the lands that comes to us with responsibility where no hierarchy exists. As settlers on this land, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all of the generations of peoples who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for an approval of the agenda as it was circulated. Okay, thank you. And is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? I see none, so we move on. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held on June 2nd, 2025 as circulated. Could I have a mover, Mario? And a seconder, please, Ted. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matter. And it is the public meeting for the first step to initiate the official plan review process. Would I have a mover? Ken and Mario. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Greg. Council will now hold a special public meeting under Section 26 of the Planning Act to inform the public of the township's intent to review its official plan and provide members of the public an opportunity to provide comments and discuss the revisions that may be required to the current official plan. In accordance with Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which the notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting on the Township of Seguin's website, by email, and by regular mail on May 15th, 2025. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Jamie Robinson and Emily, thank you, of MHBC Consultants working for the Township of Seguin on the official plan review will now provide a presentation. So, do you have slides or just, okay, Craig will do the slides and you need to push our little green button.
Good there. Come on. We good? Thank you, Worship, members of council and members of the public. My name's Jamie Robinson and with me is Emily Middleton. We are planners with MHBC Planning. Emily is actually a student at Queen's University. She's completing her master's in planning there, and she's come along and helping us along with this process. So the purpose of tonight's meeting, or this afternoon's meeting, it's a Section 26 meeting in accordance with the Planning Act. And what that really means is it's an official plan review meeting. There's a requirement under the Planning Act when a municipality reviews its official plan to have an initial meeting, which is intended to be at the outset of the process, to give the public an opportunity to provide information for consideration through that OP review process. We know this process started quite some time ago with a previous project team. In reviewing the materials with your planning staff, it wasn't clear that a Section 26 meeting that met the requirements of the Planning Act had actually been staged. So out of an abundance of caution, we're having that meeting this afternoon. There's also an upcoming open house meeting to be held on the official plan where we'll be presenting the details of the draft official plan for review and public input. But this meeting's really intended to get items or issues for folks to identify that they'd like us to review in that process. So what we intend to do today is just give a bit of a background about the OP review process. It's a bit of planning 101, and then some of the key elements that we are looking at as part of the OP review. And then in conclusion, we'll be intending to release the first draft of the OP, hopefully by the end of this week in advance of the July 3rd open house meeting. So folks have an opportunity to spend some time reviewing that draft document. So that's really sets the framework for this afternoon's session. I'm just going to turn it through to Emily. This is her first council meeting, so she's going to run through a couple of slides, and then I'll take over from there. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Jamie. So as he was discussing earlier, the Section 26 meeting is required under the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to inform members of the public that the township is updating their official plan and to provide an opportunity for members of the public and council to provide comments and recommendations on how they would like to see the official plan updated. The current and official plan was approved by the Ontario Municipal Board in 2007. And the Section 26 of the Planning Act requires the official plan to be updated to ensure it has regard for matters of provincial interest, that it conforms to provincial plans, and it is consistent with the provincial planning statement set in 2024. And the Planning Act requires that an official plan be updated every 5 years. So the current official plan incorporated feedback and policy direction from other provincial agencies, such as the Ministry of Natural Resources. It forms the foundation for decision makers in protecting the environment and guiding future development, public works, and capital investment. And council decisions must conform to the official plan and parks and public works investments, lands use planning, and applications. So it also includes goals and objectives for the township, policies and schedules included to evaluate land uses, and policies are included for land use designations, servicing natural heritage, lakes, natural hazards, growth, etc. The official plan basically sets direction for policies and policy requirements from the province, but are implemented at the local level.
So I'm going to take over here now. So I think basically what you've been provided with now is a bit of an overview about what your official plan currently does and what sorts of things it includes. This is more for members of the public, I think, than council, but just a bit about why we do planning. Planning is really about setting the stage or setting the table by providing council and the residents of the municipality with a direction and sort of a long-term guide on how to what sorts of decisions council should be making, what sort of infrastructure investments should be made to plan for that future of the municipality. And there's really three components of planning. It's the social aspect of it, the economic aspect of it, and the natural or the environmental component of it. So that's the sort of three main themes in planning. And really the decisions that get made from a planning perspective have to incorporate those three themes. It's not always an equal incorporation. It really depends on the situation, but those are sort of the big topic areas where we're planning for. You've got some of the key values that we know in Seguin Township that you value related to your lakes and resources and lifestyle. So it's really setting the stage for the protection of that lifestyle and enhancement of lifestyle and protection of resources and those sorts of things. In the province, again, as Emily mentioned, this is a mandated thing by the Planning Act. So there's really provincial legislation and policies, and then that flows down into municipal policies, which is the official plan. And then it guides the establishment of your zoning bylaw, things like site alteration bylaws, tree preservation bylaws, those sorts of things that really implement that policy direction. So there's a whole, in the official plan, there's an implementation section towards the end that provides the details on what we need to do. So I always say to folks, when you're looking at an official plan, there's the visionary piece and there's the goal piece. Then there's the policies that establish really you try to undertake to achieve that vision and goal. But then there's the implementation piece, which is really where the rubber hits the road. So how do we as a council, or how do you as a council implement those policies and goals and objectives? So it's really the three-faceted component to an OP, and we want to make sure we've got consideration for all those. Again, these are just the planning documents that are in play. You're subject to the Northern Ontario Growth Plan and the new provincial planning statement and PPS or Planning Act changes, and even environmental act changes as well, which we're seeing as recently as 2 weeks ago in Bill 5 being passed by the province. There's implications in those documents that fall into land use planning, and specifically how we deal with endangered species and different elements that are included within the PPS. So it's to say it's been evolving over the last sort of 3 to 5 years is, I think, a bit of an understatement. There's been more change than I think we've seen in the last 50 years. But so again, these are this slide just identifies some of the different types of tools in our toolbox. These are the implementation pieces. So we've got the holding symbols and interim control bylaws, plans of subdivision, variances, consents, site plan control. Those are all different applications that we can use to implement the policies of your OP. I'll just provide 30 seconds on this slide. We get our direction. So although you adopt the plan, this plan is approved ultimately by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. And those folks have a document called the Provincial Planning Statement. So anything that we approve has to be consistent with the Provincial Planning Statement. So we're required to follow their direction. There's also a document, the Northern Ontario Growth Plan, which we have to conform to. It's not so much, although it's a planning document, it's more of an economic development tool, which talks about things like focusing into key growth hubs, and it really focuses on economic development and making sure municipal infrastructure investments are well planned. Your official plan, these are really the key sections in the OP. As I mentioned, the goals and objectives really are set out at the start. That's what we're trying to work towards. That's the part where there was a lot of public consultation undertaken at the outset of this OP review by the previous project team. So we've incorporated that, the vision and the goals and the objectives from that exercise that was undertaken. There's general development policies that apply municipal wide, whether you're in a settlement area or on the shoreline or in the rural area. There's some general policies. And then we've got our different land use designations, which apply to all of the different areas, whether it's shoreline or natural heritage area, protection areas, or settlement areas. There's different land use policy designations that guide development. Heritage and hazards, so that's protection of our important features or floodlands or erosion lands to make sure we're not issuing building permits in areas that are subject to constraints or limitations on development. The province really they've fine-tuned some of those policies, so we're updating those. We've got policies in your plan about transportation and servicing to make sure we service properties in an effective manner, that we're not creating new lots, for examples, in areas that aren't able to be serviced. And then, as I mentioned previously, you've got the implementation sections that really provides the direction for council. The next few slides are just an example of your land use schedules as they exist today. We've been working with your mapping folks and Chris Mahan to update these maps to reflect the most recent data. We've obtained the most recent data from the MNR, which includes updated wetland information and whatnot and species at risk information to update these maps. Schedule C is your constraint map. It includes things like aggregate resource areas, and areas that may be constraints to development or important areas for protection. it also outlines key transportation corridors as well, which we work with MTO in crafting policies for the major highways that flow through the municipality. So just in terms of key elements of the OP, and this is, I think, something where if there's members of the public or council that wants to comment about things they want to see addressed in the new OP, this is really what the focus of today's meeting is to get some information on those so that we can make sure items are appropriately addressed in the plan. But really, we're trying to create a document that's somewhat user-friendly, but also does what it needs to do in terms of providing the correct policies for staff to hang their hat on, I'll say, when reviewing development applications, whether it's OP or minor variance applications or zoning amendment applications or consent applications, that there's appropriate policies in there to deal with the issues that this township has traditionally dealt with. We think it's important to include some policies to provide direction on both tourist accommodation uses and tourist commercial uses. The current official plan sort of lumps those two uses together, and we think there's a key distinction between them. One provides accommodation, the other provides commercial activities or commercial services. Sometimes they could occur on the same property, but we want to make sure we've got an updated policy set to deal with those. We know that tourist accommodation industry is sort of ever evolving and changing, and it's undergone some recent change in the province and into this area. Again, we make sure the document's consistent with the PPS. We want to maintain, we know that you've spent over time a lot of time with the different lake associations and with council crafting lake policies and lake-based development policies. We'd like to maintain those policies that are in the plan. If there's any refinements or suggestions, happy to consider them. But the general idea is to maintain those policies. We feel they've generally been working well for the municipality. We know that 90% of what happens in this municipality happens within 150 meters of your water bodies, generally, from a planning application piece. We want to include some direction on technical studies, when they're required, when they're not. We know the requirement for an EIS is often a common thing that's required with a development application. So we want to make sure that they're being required where they need to be, but there's also some allowances where appropriate to scope the scale of what's being asked for in certain instances, or potentially not require them based on site-specific circumstances. And then the only other piece is that we want to make sure that we also have policies that are included in the plan to deal with the new MZO lands as well, that there's also some key direction being provided to the future development of those lands as well within the official plan. So just in terms of a summary, the process has been ongoing. You've completed visioning and various public consultation already. We've taken that information and made modifications to the official plan, which is intended to be released at the end of this week. If there's any additional items that come out of this meeting, we will be incorporating them through the course of the week. And again, that's the first draft. What we would do after that is that draft would be provided off to the ministry. Maybe I'll just jump ahead to the next step piece. Oh, I guess it was there. We'll send this draft off to the ministry. There's a 90-day commenting period that the ministry has before we can proceed to a formal open house meeting and then ultimately our public meeting. So we complete the first draft, have our open house, ship the document off to the province and ask for comments on it. They'll hopefully provide us comments within 90 days. Then we would be scheduling our releasing our second draft likely in September, with a statutory public meeting either in October, hopefully October, possibly November if the province is late getting its comments, and then adopting the document thereafter. So that's the timeline that we're looking at here. But if there's any questions that come from council or the public, I'd be happy to do my best to try to answer those. But really, again, the focus is about ideas and gaining items that need to be addressed through part of this review. So thanks for your indulgence this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And we recognize that there are several people in the waiting room. Craig is letting you in now. We couldn't do that while there were slides on the screen, or it would have ended the presentation. So I believe you're coming in now. So it's open to questions from anybody in council chambers and participating by Zoom. If there are any questions of Jamie and Emily. You want to come forward to the mic? Sure. Yeah. Although you won't have a microphone there. Okay, come on up. Hmm? Okay. On the microphone. There. And introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name's Howie Johnson, and I was on the Official Plan Steering Committee previously. My question is first of all, my understanding is that you've decided that you were going to take the existing official plan and evolve that rather than the direction that was taken with the old approach. Is that correct? Okay, so when the drafts are submitted to the public, will there be a red line series on it so we can see where the changes? Thank you very much. That's all I needed to know.
So the answer was from Jamie that yes, there will be a red line version. For those of you that didn't see him nod, that there will be a red line version, and we're hoping to see that this week. I think end of this week. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else in council chambers that would like to speak? And if you're on Zoom and would like to speak, could you identify yourself by putting your hand up? I see Mary. Did you see a hand up on the screen? Okay. Councillor Bazinski, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that the type of approach that you're going to be taking, in that you're going to be providing a red line copy. That's, there's not all that much wrong, in my opinion, with the existing official plan, but definitely there are a number of things that need updating. And I'm sure you've been given copies of comments from previous communications. One thing that I have a concern about, and I know a number of lake associations also voiced the concern, had to do with small lakes and carrying capacity. Because right now, and I think it was a former mayor that in the 11th hour suggested that there really didn't need to be carrying capacity limits on small lakes the way we have them on the medium and large lakes. And I have a concern with that approach, in that some people have been taking advantage of the fact that there are numerous small lakes, and they've been overloaded based on that policy. So I'm hoping that you're going to deal with that issue in your review. There are many things that I can think of from practice and also being on council, but I'm eagerly anticipating the draft so I can have a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone that's registered to speak to this matter via electronic participation? And if so, could you identify yourself? We have some names, but because we don't have the cameras, please speak up if you're here.
David Murphy, Wolfgang Mersch, and Cassie Sauer have registered to speak to this matter via electronic participation, but they have not shown up.
So if any of those three are online, please identify yourself. But if not, and does anyone else on council have any questions or concerns? Okay, thank you. Council will now close the public meeting and return to the regular meeting, and we'll look forward to some serious reading material this week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matter is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mary, you. All in favor? Thank you. Council will now consider the following road allowance applications. Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS 2024-0007-F for Capriccio on Otter Lake, bylaw number 2025-042, and Shore Road Allowance Application Number RAS 2024-0010-H for Williams and Ionitas on Sucker Lake. And that's bylaw 2025-040. I see Taylor. Had we received any written objections to these applications?
No written objections have been received to the applications.
And is there anyone present in person in the council chambers who wishes to speak to these applications? If so, please raise your hand. Oh, not there. Has anyone registered to speak to these applications via electronic participation?
No one has registered to speak to these applications by electronic participation.
Does council have any questions of Taylor on both of these? Nope.
These are for the first one.
So we have therefore some motions. Motion that bylaw number 2025-042, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell portions of the original Shore Road Allowance, application number RAS 2024-0007 for Capriccio, is hereby deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a mover? Ted and Terry. All in favor? Thank you. And this is the same, second part of the same one. A motion that bylaw number 2025-043, being a bylaw to deem lot 49 of Plan M 2020 pursuant to section 50 bracket 4 of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-030-005-05900, file number D 2024-0007-H for Capriccio is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I need a mover, Mario and Gail. All in favor? Thank you. And this are the two for the second number. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-040, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell portions of the original Shore Road Allowance, application number RAS 2024-0010-H for Williams and Ionitas, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Mover, please. Gail and Ken. All in favor? Thank you. And then this is the second part of the same one. A motion that bylaw 2025-041, being a bylaw to deem lot 12 of Plan 269 pursuant to section 50, bracket 4 of the Planning Act, not to be on a plan of subdivision, property roll number 4903-010-003-03900, file number D 2024-0006-H for Williams and Ionitas, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Mover. Mario and Ken. All in favor? Thank you. And that is the Shore Road allowances for today. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for June 16th, 2025 meeting of council. And they are reports from Planning, Communications, Treasury, and Fire Services. Could I have a mover, please? Terry and Greg. All in favor? Thank you. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-045 being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-002-18800, application number R 2025-0003-H for 27 Spruce Hill Drive. Gucciardi is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I need a motion to put this on the table, please. Ken and Gail. And I see Brady here to tell us about it.
Yes, thank you. This application was brought forward in April for a public meeting. The applicants are requesting relief from the zoning bylaw to permit a new dwelling, a boathouse, and a boat port. Following discussions with staff after the public meeting, the applicants revised the proposal to significantly reduce the requests. The changes have been outlined within the staff report, and staff are recommending approval of the bylaw.
Does council have any questions? Councillor Fellner?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that the client is, the applicant has dialed back some of the asks, but the ask that's a particular concern to me is the boathouse. The increase in size, and general massing just increases the massing in that particular area. And in that particular area of the lot, on the south end of that lot, this peninsula is quite low, very sparsely treed. So the existing boathouse, which has a much smaller footprint, it can be seen from 180 degrees. So you can see it from the east, you can see it from the west. We've already previously approved a boat port in that small bay. It is under width, and I'm not prepared to vote my approval to this at this time. I would prefer to see if this boathouse can be moved further to the east, so it's not apparently visible from both sides. It's a sensitive little piece of property. It's a pretty piece of property. And there's a very strong opinion in the neighborhood I've heard from quite a few people that a bigger structure is just not acceptable. So at this particular time, I'd ask for a deferral on a decision and give the applicant time to get with planning again and see if there's a way to dial this back a little bit, make the building less visible or less apparent, or whatever the term might be.
Councillor Finson?
My question is the increase still, is it 8.8%? Is that what I'm reading? That the requirement, it's 5%, and what they're asking for is 8.8% coverage? Is that what I'm reading?
Brady, can you answer that?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I see that it says that. I just wanted to confirm that that's what the revisions were. It's still 8.8% coverage from 5% coverage. So that was my question. Thanks.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Getty, any questions?
No, I would second the deferral though, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
So in deferring, what are you asking of the proponent?
I'm asking them to either relocate or remove the ask to make the boathouse structure bigger.
Okay, so what do I do? So we have to vote on this?
So Terry, yeah, so just moved by Terry, seconded by Greg. Discussion and a vote on the deferral. And then whatever the decision is, just write it over here, either deferred or carried.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the deferral? Counselor Basinski?
Sorry, I just, one other question I had for Councillor Fellner. He's mentioned that he's talked to a number of people, but did the Lake Association submit a formal response? And what was it? Can't remember.
They submitted a response at the open meeting, and it's in your agenda package today. So we are voting on the deferral. All in favor of a deferral? Okay. Sorry. I start again. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby grant provisional approval to consent application B 2025-0001-H for Calcon Capital, Inc., subject to the conditions set out in the decision. And I will remind you that this came before council on May 12th. And it was, a deferral was moved by Terry Fellner and seconded by Greg Getty. So we are now making a motion on that. I see Brady again, if anybody has any questions for her. Okay, so we call a vote. All in favor? Okay, and that is passed. Carrie, do I put today's date? June 5. Oh. Do you have, do I have a motion on this or is this, okay. The next one is item 7C. And it's for the Longhorn Corporation, which is a Sucker Lake subdivision. And I'm going to ask John Jackson to come to the microphone and explain what it is a little bit. And I see Taylor. Go ahead. Did it light up?
Yes, it's green.
Okay, go ahead. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Council. This is a plan of subdivision that I think can best be described as similar to the Clear Lake subdivision, which is in planning terms quite historic. It was actually draft plan approved in the late 1980s. And you can tell when you're getting a little older, because I worked for the original Longhorn Corporation, which was the father of Rain Lieber. And then Rain moved on and he'd sold it to, interestingly enough, another Estonian. We filed this plan, got it approved by the province back in the 80s. Originally, it was filed as a 9-lot, 200-foot or 60-meter waterfront development. When final approval came along, it was bumped up to 90-meter lots, of which there are 6 of them. And so they sat on it and really intended just to sit on it for as long as they could. But along came our leader, Doug Ford, who thought that these old plans, in the interest of contributing to the housing shortage, should now have an expiry date put on them. And so as of last March, they have a 3-year date by which they have to be completed. This was not in the cards for this property, but because we would lose the previous approval, we have asked the planning director to assist us with the administration of that approval, which essentially means we've got to go and get the road designed, a subdivision agreement prepared, executed by this council, and surveyed, and the road actually constructed. And we only have a little less than 3-year window now to get that completed. So all the heavy lifting in my world has been done. It just is a case where there's going to be some activity in the area. We've retained surveyors who are on field. We've retained an engineer and an environmentalist to bring it into the 21st century, if you like, as far as environmental standards are concerned. So Taylor was wanting to make sure that council was aware of the application, that if necessary, I would attend to answer any questions about it, knowing the property as I have for now almost 35 years.
Thank you very much. Taylor, do you have anything to add?
Through your worship, nope, nothing to add. John Jackson has summarized it pretty well. We just wanted to take this step, this half measure to council, so that way there wasn't just an agreement for execution presented to council and then questions say, where did this come from? Because it's a 1989 file.
Okay, Councillor Finson has a question.
My question is, the approval, will it be for the 90-meter lots, the 6 lots that it was changed to back then? Will it be changed to that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's just what we see on here with
Correct.
the 6 that we see. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you.
Does council have any other questions? Councillor Collins has a
John. So each lot would have at least a 300-foot frontage?
Correct.
Okay, good enough.
Councillor Adams?
This has already been approved, so there's nothing really we can do for it, is there?
I'm going to be biased in my view, obviously, but I suppose if it was so egregious to current standards, council might be of a position that you'd want to wind back the clock and look at it, but I think it's going to be a quality development.
And is Longhorn prepared to make the investment of building the road and updating all the studies?
Oh, yes. Yes. And that actually, in Taylor's report, he kind of alludes to that expenditure forthcoming, but I can assure you it's underway.
Yeah. So what you're looking for, or Councillor Fellner?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question. So the part about Sucker Lake being an at capacity lake trout lake, does your client's application predate that and trump it, or why do you think that that's maybe not a concern? I'm just asking. I don't really know.
Well, it's an interesting situation, but back when this subdivision was designed, it was under what was called the Dillon model. You might be old enough, as well as I, to remember how that worked. And
Thanks, John.
it actually set a model forward where you could allow shoreline development so long as it didn't change the trophic status based on the concentration of nutrients, mostly phosphorus. And what the model said was you couldn't take a level 1 lake, put development on it, would cause a nutrient level to sink it to a level 2. But they could calculate, supposedly, that they could identify the number of lots that could occur before that would happen. In the case of a lake trout lake, they took that number, let's say it was 100 residual units available, and they only allowed up to 25% of additional lots. Quite arbitrary, but it was sort of a cautionary approach at that time. And then at that time, they said, because of the residual capacity of Sucker Lake, and 25% of that capacity would not be exceeded by these 6 lots, it conformed to the then standards of a lake trout lake. Since that time, the model has morphed in a number of fashions where they've added additional criteria about what constitutes an at-capacity lake trout lake. And that includes things like the level of concentrated oxygen in the lake. And so they not only use phosphorus, they use dissolved oxygen, and that is a very high standard. There's no real science behind it, but they introduced that as another issue. But that didn't exist back in the 1980s. And now it is a understanding that the development impacts associated with nutrient concentration is significantly abated based on our geography, on the type of soils we have, and so that it can be mitigated to the point of really not being a concern at this point. Now, the province hasn't caught up with that reality, but that's just the province and its slow-moving machine. But I'm quite convinced in my knowledge of the lake capacity issue with respect to planning in our region, this is a non-issue. Sorry about the long-winded answer, but I lived it.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
So, Taylor, Taylor's got his hand up. Go ahead, Taylor.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Fellner. And I have crafted the recommendation of the report to take that into account, that as we continue forward on this project, they'll have to ensure that the proposal satisfies current and legal environmental standards, because the Lake Trout Lake at capacity question is also one that staff has.
So Taylor, you're looking for staff direction to pick between your three options? Or what's your recommendation?
Yeah, staff's recommendation is the main recommendation of the report, so that'd be on page 116. We always give alternatives or options on every single staff report, so those are there.
Okay.
The council is looking that direction.
So, the recommendation is that we allow Longhorn to proceed to update their studies, work with John, build a road. Is council comfortable with that recommendation? Okay, you have permission to proceed.
Thanks, Council.
And now, does the 3 years start from now?
March 22nd, 2024. The clock is ticking. Yes, thank you.
I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-048, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-001-00255, application number R 2025-0007-H for Christen and Porter is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Ken is the mover and a seconder. Gail. And I see Brady on screen again.
Yes,
Did you
thank
want to
you.
explain it?
Yes, this application was brought forward in May for a public meeting. No concerns were raised at the public meeting. The applicants are requesting lot coverage relief to permit a dwelling, a boathouse, and a boat port. Staff are recommending approval of the application.
Does council have any questions? Nope, all in favor. And that's carried. Okay, but we can't see them, right?
Well, there, you will.
Okay. Okay. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-049, being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-020-001-08000, application number R 2025-006-R for 14 Farquhar Street and for the Stern family is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I need a motion. Gail and Terry. And I see Taylor, you have your hand up? Still or? New?
Yeah, new
Go
hand.
ahead.
I just wanted to point out that we did have 4 letters of support submitted for this application. I sent them to council under separate email, but we had letters of support from Mike Bowick of 24 Farquhar Street, Liz Lundell, Rosso Lake College, and Thelma Jarvis. Like I mentioned, they are sent to council under email, and if anyone from the public would like them, I can email the emails to them as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I see Ryan Allen and Mr. Stern available to answer questions. Can you turn your cameras on, please? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Yes, we're here to answer any questions you may have about the application.
Councillor Fellner? Councillor Finson, sorry.
My question is, when they originally presented this, I'm really happy that the old boathouse will stay. But when it was first presented, the second boathouse, it says here is a 2-story boathouse. A 2-story boathouse is not allowed. It's a 1.5 story is the limit of the boathouses. And I'm just wondering if that has been changed. I was told that's what it was at the last meeting. They said, oh, that's a mistake. It's actually a 1.5 story. Is that so?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's actually the opposite, Councillor. The original application was made with a 1.5 story boathouse, but due to the mansard roof design, I explained at the meeting, it kind of has 2 different peaks. That first wall is higher than would otherwise be permitted for a 1.5 story boathouse. But then I also explained at the meeting that the reason for the roof design choice was to match and mirror the existing mansard roof that's on the current historical boathouse.
Can you still not make it a 1.5 story boathouse, even though you have higher peaks? I'm not sure I understand.
So in short answer, the boathouse was not changed to be 1.5 story. Considerable changes to the roof line would be needed to reduce the or to change the building to a 1 story. Sorry, excuse me, 1.5 story boathouse versus a 2 story.
Well, it says 2 story on the proposed. It says a 2 story boathouse.
Correct, and it is a 2 story boathouse due to the design of the roof.
Okay, but only a 1.5 story is allowed.
Correct.
So I'm wondering how, if you can, because there will be 2 boathouses on the property, I understand one is historical, but to have 2 boathouses and the second one have more space in it than is allowed, is that not, are you not able to do a 1.5 story boathouse?
We, through you, Madam Mayor, we looked at the design of a peaked roof, 1.5 story boathouse, and the architects didn't believe that it was sympathetic to the character and style of the existing boathouse. So you'll see in some of the renderings that are provided in the report, the 2 relate to each other. Short answer, yes. The building could be changed in its design to be a 1.5 story, but I think that it would lose some of the design character associated with that. Mr. Stern is also on the call too. He worked very closely with the architects as well and may be able to provide some additional thinking about why the 2 story boathouse remains on the plans today.
I'm gonna, okay, Mr. Stern, you can speak, and then our Director of Planning has a comment. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. And I don't want to take too much time, but I just happen to be standing in front of a building that has a mansard or gambrel style roof, which is what we're proposing. As you can see from the building behind me, it has the 2 slanted parts of the single roof line. In order to complement the existing boathouse, our architects, as well as a number of historians on the lake, were very excited that our architects proposed this similar style roof line. We understand that it technically means that we are proposing a 2 story boathouse, but what our plans show is that the square footage of that 2nd story is no different than what you would typically find on the 2nd story of the 1.5 story boathouses that are allowed. And so while we agree that it is a 2 story boathouse by the definition, we're trying to appease both being architecturally sympathetic while still staying within, I think, the stated intent of the bylaw, which is to limit the square footage on that second story.
Thank you. And Taylor, do you want to weigh in here?
Yes, through your worship, Mr. Stern addressed it correctly. The way our bylaw is structured, that if you're asking for a mansard or a gambrel roof, it essentially, through the definitions and the way it's crafted, it equals a second story boathouse. So I'm not sure if there's really a way to have a 1.5 story gambrel roof. But if there are concerns about it, it could be addressed from a height perspective, and I believe it is the same height as a standard boathouse. But yes, the attic truss design, or the attic design of that style of roof equals a second story.
Thank you. Councillor Adams.
Yes, the existing boathouse now is kind of a historic building, and I understand that, but it's gonna be moved and reconstructed, am I correct?
Ryan, I don't think it's going to be moved. It's going to be made safe.
It will, through you, Madam Mayor, it will be moved. I presented some photos when I was at the public meeting that showed the existing boathouse is jammed very close to the edge of the shoreline today. So there's snow and ice that backfills between the walls of the boathouse and the rock shoreline. So the intention is, and then on top of that, the boathouse is very close to the shoreline, and due to the configuration of the dock, it makes it very difficult to bring a boat into that boathouse, particularly during winds from the west. So the intention is to slide the boathouse further offshore to provide separation from the shoreline for the building integrity and access. And it's kind of slid around the point slightly to provide that deeper water access. And then the new boathouse is located on the back side of that new boathouse. And just to comment about the boathouse height, the proposed boathouse height for the water level is 21 feet to the highest point of the roof, where the bylaw would actually measure the height to the midpoint of the roof itself. Just for clarity purposes, I believe we're less height than the maximum height would allow for a boathouse on this lot.
So you're moving that boathouse, and you're gonna build another boathouse. It's gonna be 2-story. It's gonna be 2 slips in a boat port. And I think the zoning bylaw, you're only allowed 1 boathouse on that lake. So those 2 boathouses are gonna take quite a bit of the water area with dockage and everything else. I think it should be something smaller. I don't know, I just can't approve 2 boathouses myself in 1 lot.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you. I just want clarification. Sorry, thank you, Mayor. I just want clarification. The old boathouse used to moor a sailboat, no?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that is correct. It was a sailing boathouse.
So it didn't have an upper floor, correct?
It had through you, Madam Mayor, it had a partial upper floor.
A partial upper floor.
But then the
Okay.
previous owners decked over to be 100% of the upper level.
Understood. But the new boathouse isn't going to be mooring a sailboat.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it is. The intention is for Mr. Stern to acquire a sailboat and properly use it as a sailing boathouse.
With a second floor?
With a second floor, yes. The second floor is going to be reduced back to the original size of the second floor, which is approximately a 20 square meter reduction from what is there today.
I'm having a hard time understanding that, because with I don't care if it's a single master, you're going to need, and then have accommodations up front or on top. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think that I'm sticking with the 1.5 story, what our bylaw recommends.
Counselor Finson and then Counselor Getty after her.
My question is, so you are going to have accommodation in the boathouse as well?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. That was the original proposal presented to council. There is currently a cabin in the upper level of the boathouse, and the new boathouse will also have a cabin, but with reduced size.
But still, the second one is a 2-story and this one is a 1.5 stories. Is that right? The old one is a story and a
Mr.
half.
Algie, Mr. Algie determined that both boathouses were 2-story boathouses.
Under our bylaw, that's correct. Okay,
So
Counselor
there's-
Getty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is for Taylor. Taylor, I understand the uniqueness of the sailboat, the historical boathouse being a 2-story. My fear is that if we allow what is a 2-story on the second boathouse, on the new one that is being proposed, that we will set a precedent that the floodgates will open for 2-story boathouses on the lakes. Can you comment on that?
Through your worship, technically speaking, there is no precedent in planning when it comes to council's decision. Every application would be considered on its own merits. The gambrel mansard roof, it's not a second story in the sense where you have your first floor, the second floor, and then a roof on top of like the roof line. With the way our bylaw is crafted, it equals a second story. So I don't think it would open up the floodgates to answer your question. Staff's concern generally isn't so much with the roof design. It was more the spacing of the boathouses. I believe on page 162, I had some suggestions on maybe how it could be spaced out. Or the new boathouse being the 3-slip one, if it could be scaled down a bit. I just wanted to be clear, the sailboat boathouse, so the existing one, it can be reconstructed as of right. So really the discussion is the new one next to it, because it doesn't have those permissions.
Well, sorry, Taylor, then, and I understand that it has it has a right to be reconstructed.
Yeah.
But, this is a question, it's not, it has the ability to be reconstructed where it sits, to move it somewhere else on the property? Does it still maintain that ability to be rebuilt?
On its own, it does. We reviewed the bylaw, and the non-conforming or the non-complying section does provide that flexibility for relocation to more acceptable points.
Okay, thank you. I understand the position in regards to the roof line, but as a council, we are being flooded with, when I say being flooded, constantly being pushed to exceed what is in our planning bylaws, especially in regards to boathouses. And I think that although it may be, there's nothing specific, as you mentioned, that ties it. My concern is that, the next person that's going to come along is going to look, when they appeal it, when we turn it down, they're going to be going to the OLT, they're going to be going to a review board, and they're going to say, well, you approved it historically, and it'll be a slippery slope that we're going to be going down in regards to that problem. That's my concern with it. Thank you.
Counselor Fellner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My opinion with regards to 2 boathouses, we'll start with that, is that in this particular case, because of the historic nature of the sailboat boathouse, which I've seen, and it's quite cool, I'd be okay with that, right? Where I do have my problem is, I think probably where the same area that our director of planning has, and it's not unlike one that we just had the table a little while ago, is massing on the shoreline, right? And when you stick the 2 structures that close to each other, even though I understand the reasoning for wanting to, it becomes, the mass itself becomes too much, especially when one structure is significantly over height. I understand why you'd want to build a mandrel style roof to complement the existing boathouse, but however, the mandrel roofs were exempted from our boathouse for a specific reason, and the reason is that if you look at how that whole zoning bylaw was crafted way back when, although you're allowed to build so many square feet of finished space in the upper story of a boathouse, not all of it has got sufficient headroom to actually use, right? So as soon as you add in the mandrel roof, it adds in a lot more space that you can use. That being said, now with new building techniques and new building styles that we've got, everybody's pushing the envelope and using steel structures and the, you know, the definition of a gable and the definition of a dormer and this and that, we're ending up with boathouses that look more like 2 stories and 1.5 stories. So I think I would be not as, I think the better approach is to separate the 2 buildings myself. And so where a little bit of a conflict in the architecture wouldn't be as apparent, and the massing on the shoreline wouldn't be apparent. I don't have as much problem with the 2 living accommodations. We've done that before. The one in the sailboat boathouse, because of the design of it, the upper floor is pretty small and narrow. And, you know, because it's on the side of the slip, it doesn't, you know, there's not much there anyhow. So that it's in keeping with the way the thing, I think it'd be kind of cool to replicate that boathouse exactly the way it was built. And then I think it should be protected, so it can't be altered. So there's my sort of take on it. I think I'm pretty supportive of most of it. I think some of it, I think it needs a little bit of fine tuning before I agree to all of it. But all in all, I commend you for coming up with this approach and keeping this piece of history. And I know it's not cheap to keep it either. So that's all I got to say.
I think Ryan wants to reply to that. Please, can we go in order?
Yes, thank you. And just to make sure there's no confusion, the design of the roof doesn't provide any additional habitable space or living space in that upper level. That is measured to the interior face of the interior walls. So that 59 square meters is the whole area, upper level. There is no knee walls or anything that push down that would allow us for additional area to be used. And I think one of the things that's important to remember about this application is that we are in the urban settlement area. We have a 30% lot coverage permission and a 15% accessory building coverage permission. The proposal in front of you not only has some asks on the table related to the other boathouse, but at one, we're reducing the coverage from 30% down to 5%, and accessory coverage from 15% down to 15% down to 5%. And over 220 meters of the shoreline, which is almost a 1/4 kilometer on this lot, will be prohibited from any development, shoreline development, docks, boathouses. And that includes the Elephant Heads Point, which I think is a very significant landmark. Currently, that landmark has no protection. Mr. Stern could apply for a dock and a boathouse right in front of that existing Elephant Heads today, once the current boathouse is removed, with no obligation to rebuild the boathouse. So I think we're trying to achieve something that's unique in the township. There are no other sailing boathouses. I don't think there's any precedents related to the future request for 2-story boathouses on one lot. There are no other sailing boathouses in this municipality that would be proposed to be rebuilt, same. And that's primarily the challenge with this site, is that Mr. Stern desires heavily to maintain the historical character of this boathouse, but also needs the new boathouse to accommodate modern boats. And the desire is to have these boathouses close together, to have them sympathetic to each other, And then just in terms of operation of a boathouses too, there's some practicality with equipment and things being within proximity to each other versus separated in separate structures. And then furthermore, the approval of this application eliminates any potential severance of this lot into separate pieces, which currently could be divided into two, with two dwellings and then all of the associated structures. Now, if someone was looking to maximize the value of this property, the proposal that you have in front of you wouldn't do it. It would be a severance of the lot from a planning perspective into two separate parcels, and then full development at 30% lot coverage on each of those new lots. So that's the mind frame that I approach this with, is that the proposal is substantially reduced from what the development potential is on this lot. Mind you, there are some asks on the table related to the two boathouses close together, as well as the two-story. But I think with the design of the roof line, sympathetic to the existing, the fact that there is less sleeping cabin floor area than would otherwise be allowed if it was a 1.5-story boathouse, we're hopeful that checks all the right boxes with this council, and that you will agree with us and hopefully support the application.
Thank you. We have a question from Gail Finson, and then we have a comment from our Chief Administrative Officer.
I have no problem with I'm really happy that you're preserving the old boathouse. I have no problem with that, putting it back to its historical beginnings. It does say here that there were no guest accommodations prior to. Now there will be 2 sets of guest accommodations. My only issue is, could it not be a 1.5-story boathouse and not a 2-story boathouse? That's all. And I think it's wonderful that you're saving the old one. I was going to cry when I thought it was going to be leaving when I heard that it had been purchased. So I'm very, very happy. But I just don't know why there has to be 2 full accommodations, plus a lot more docks, and plus there's 2 boathouses and a boat dock, plus there's still the sailboat one. So there's a lot going on there. It's not about lot coverage. This is about waterfront coverage. This is about what we allow on the water, not on the property, on the water. So my problem with it is only that little tiny bit, is that it's a 2-story, not a 1.5-story. And I'm happy with everything except for that it's 2-story. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just point of clarity, because we have heard multiple times the reference to the historical status of the sailing boathouse. There is no formal historical designation applied to the property, to the best of our knowledge. Although its historical uses have been that of a sailboat boathouse, it does not have status that gives it any sort of special privilege. Although I think everybody appreciates the restoration and the attempt to keep it as is. My other comment would be that your Director of Planning has presented a report with a recommendation that recommends deferral, while many of these discussions continue to be debated and sorted out. And at this point, I think we've gone around, and I think Council's expressed its position. And I think Mr. Allen, of course, is hearing that. But I think at this point, it would be prudent for us to take this offline from here and let the planning director and the property owner's agent have further discussions.
Okay, Councillor Fellner, last comment on this, and then Ken.
Yeah, I will, I'm going to propose to defer this matter.
That's already been done.
That's been done?
That's the recommendation.
Oh, I see, okay.
That's the recommendation of staff. Councillor Adams. One question for Ryan. How many linear feet of undisturbed, or what I'll call virgin waterfront, will be left if these 2 boathouses are where they are now, or where they're proposed?
Over 220 meters.
So if they're separated, there would not be a long stretch of virgin waterfront any longer on that point in Russell.
Correct.
Okay, and one more question, maybe this is to Taylor. The definition of a 2-story boathouse in our bylaw is by the number of square feet of living accommodation. It is not by the height of the boathouse. Is that correct?
Yeah, it gets more complex than that in our bylaw. We define 1.5-story boathouses, and it has a permitted height for a knee wall, so to speak. And if it's above that, it's considered a full story. So I think Mr. Allen was pointing out before is the overall height is in line with a 1.5-story boathouse. It's just that when you go to this roof design, it by default doesn't satisfy the 1.5-story provision and therefore is considered 2-story.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the table. And from the staff is recommending deferral.
Did you read that?
You want me to read it again? Okay, we have a motion that bylaw number 2025-049 being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin zoning bylaw, property roll number 4903-020-001-08000, application number R 2025-006-R for 14 Farquhar Street for Mr. Stern is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council, and the staff
Councillor Felder has asked for.
Okay, we don't have to- Okay,
okay.
okay.
I had to put it in as a positive. So Councillor Felder moved to defer, and Councillor Adams seconded move to
Okay.
defer, and then vote on the deferral.
Okay, and we are following staff recommendation. All in favor of the deferral? And that is carried.
Sorry.
So that's okay.
Just your initials. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So.
thank you. We are moving on to item F, which is a communications recommendation, and I see Valerie and Becky here to do it. Make sure the green light is on, please. Do they ask?
It is.
I know, but do you have their slides? Because they're,
13.
okay,
Can she share?
okay. Yes,
Perfect. Just give us 1 minute. Okay, while Becky's getting set up, I'll just this closer. Okay. Okay, good afternoon, Mayor McDermott and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you in the community our recommendation for a refreshed Seguin Township logo. You all know me, I'm Valerie, and I'm pleased to introduce Becky Logan, who's joined the township recently, and she is a registered graphic designer and has supported the project to this point. It always takes a minute with PowerPoint, right? Okay. Super. So we can go to the first slide. Okay. So just a little bit of background on how we got to this point. As many of you know, several branded township assets are approaching end of life. Much of our building signage and wayfinding signage is due to be replaced in the next 2 years, with all township signage reaching end of life by 2030. Our current website software is going to be obsolete as of December of this year. So this timing to us presents an opportunity. Seguin Township Strategic Plan also clearly laid out that we would like to develop a brand and marketing plan, and that we would further define our township identity. So this timing also presents a chance to reach these strategic objectives. The township has also struggled a little bit with consistency in our visual identity. Part of this is because our branding guidelines have various iterations of a logo, and as staff has tried to adapt to emerging technologies, digital communications, a lot of those variations end up out in the world and perhaps aren't presenting us in the innovative and professional manner we'd like. We believe these challenges present an opportunity. So we also, with these factors in mind, in 2024, we asked the public to participate in a community survey to inform how we address these opportunities and challenges. Through the survey responses, emails, social media comments, we learned a lot. We learned that the township community does not want a rebrand. We learned that the township feels very connected to the tagline, "The natural place to be." And we learned that there are several elements of the existing brand that the community appreciates, though many voiced a preference for simplicity. The survey also clearly communicated, which everyone in this room knows, that the township has an appreciation, the community has an appreciation for nature and our natural landscape. So with that data in guidance from from council here, we set out to refresh the township brand to achieve our community and organizational goals. So together, Becky and I have created, with Becky's graphic design expertise, 3 options for council to consider. And I'll just point out that on all options, the oval has been removed to further allow the name of the township and the assets to really shine and not limit us in terms of how the logo is applied in various platforms. So color was pulled out of the background and put into core components of the logo, the natural features, the text, and the wave that you see. The color palette also closely aligns with nature and moving away from black and burgundy. So this first option includes all components found in the existing logo with the introduction of water to reflect our 186 lakes. It continues the tradition of 4 trees representing the 4 settlement areas without the 5th tree that was in the original logo, and I'm told was to represent the township as a separate entity. 4 trees united next to Seguin Township better represents where we are now as a united community and where we're going in the future. And this version, as you'll see, has a very simplified topography. That's the text there. This option has literally no natural features, but includes the iconic gradient with a newly developed wave element. This element will be more explained in the next slide, but we did keep, I'll point out, the original topography because there is something quite iconic about that font. Next slide. Okay. So staff recommends the logo that you see in front of you right now that we believe incorporates all of the strongest components of the previous iterations. It's got the 4 trees to represent the 4 communities. The wave element that was in the previous version as well represents the Canadian Shield, the water, the skies, and all of the elements that our community said clearly matter to them. We kept the original topography and, sorry, in our professional opinion, this is the logo that is both future-friendly and respectful of Seguin Township's past, an inspiring continuation of a story that began with the original logo decades ago. So these mock-ups are just that. They are examples of what this recommended logo could look like. This is a township sign. This is a letterhead and a signature line. And I believe there's one more. Nope, that's it. So those are conceptual. Please don't take those as literally what they would look like, but it would give you an idea of what that refreshed logo would look like. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions? Councillor Adams.
I noticed you got the 4 trees, and I think originally 5 trees one was for Monteith. So are we not gonna
The
include?
legend continues.
I believe, I participated a little bit. The big tree was for the township and the 4 were for our 4 settlement areas.
So what about Monteith? Like, it's not just us.
Monteith is not considered one of our existing settlement areas now.
Nobody has amalgamated with us.
No, but he's not a settlement area.
I understand that part, yeah. Sorry.
Councillor Bazinski.
Well, I don't think the vast majority of people in the township could see the forest for the trees. I think quite frankly, whether it's 4 trees, 5 trees, I could care less. And I think to try to do the significance, well, some people may be. Anyway, long and the short of it, I'm happy with the logo as you've recommended. But one thing I'd like to be assured of, because it goes back to my fiscal prudence, I really wouldn't want to see all of a sudden the logo be on township trucks and all the places where the logo could be. I'd like to see it phased in over time and certainly when it was needed. and I like the idea of keeping the natural place to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. And to Councillor Brzezinski's point, the intent here today is to get council's feedback and potentially approval to proceed with a new logo. The replacement of signs, the replacement of letterhead all comes when we either reach the end of life of a particular sign and it's time to replace it anyways, or if we run out of stock, we would then introduce the new logo. We're not going to go out and rebrand all the trucks tomorrow, and that wouldn't be the case. So you can be assured that we will continue to be fiscally prudent with replacement on an as-needed basis and when needed basis.
Councillor Fellner and then Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I wanted to thank you ladies for, I think, an excellent job. I think I really, really like how you clean things up. I don't like that. I never did care for that. We've been sort of holding off at park to park to create a bunch of new signage till we figured out what Seguin Township was going to do there. And I'm really happy that we waited because I think the signs would be a lot nicer. So I think it's great.
Thank
The one
you.
that you recommend, I think is first rate, and thanks very much for the hard work.
Thank you so much. Councillor Adams.
I don't care how many trees there are either. I was asked by staff to bring it up,
The debate is.
so I brought it up.
Councillor Collins.
Yes, the more I look at the refined sign,
Grows on you.
it actually does grow on you. I've been in the marketing with my own company and my wife's company, and it's always which is more important? Is it the name or the slogan? Isn't it? When you actually think of marketing, and you know that because you've been in marketing, is it the name or is it the slogan? And our slogan is the little print up at the top there. Let me see what that says. What does it say? The natural place to be. That's my opinion. Which do you go with? Do you go with the name or do you go with the slogan? And our slogan's been with us for quite some time now, hasn't it? And it seems to work, good or bad. It depends on the individual you're talking to, right? But that's all. It's a very clean. The colors are great, I think, right? Less colors. How many colors in that?
There are 4.
4?
Our approach to it was to encapsulate the 4 settlements as well as encapsulate the 4 seasons
And the 4 colors.
and the 4 colors.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Very intentional.
Very good. All right.
Councillor Finson.
It's beautiful. I have to say the colors are perfect. I love the dark blue with the rest of the colors. It's perfect. I would say if you want to please, Mr. over here, you might just bold the natural place to be and leave it the way it is. Maybe stretch it and bold it, and then it would be perfect. But I mean, it is perfect. I love it. I love it. And the 4 trees, because it's time we became Seguin Township and not, so it's nice to, yeah, I think it's a nice touch
Unite
to
us.
have all the 4s. That means we're all together, we're one. It's beautiful. Thank you, thank you.
Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Valerie, I just want to say thank you to your team. I think you did a great job. You've got my support on it. That's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'm going to answer Ted from my point of view. When I walk into the big meetings like the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, I want people to know I'm from Seguin and where Seguin is. And it's okay to say it's the natural place to be, but if I just said I'm from the natural place to be, they wouldn't have a clue where I came from. So I come from Seguin and I'm proud of it.
Here.
So I think you're hearing strong support from council. Go develop it and show us which signs are falling apart.
Okay.
Yes. ma'am.
Thanks very much. Job well done.
Very much for your time.
Thank you, Madam.
Bye-bye.
And I believe we have Michelle. Oh, there she is. Okay. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, good afternoon.
You come after the artistic group with the numbers.
With the numbers, that's correct. This is our first financial update of the year after the passing of the budget. And right now we're forecasting an operational surplus of just under $90,000, most of which is from the WSIB surplus distribution that we were advised of back in February. I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Councillor Bazinski?
Not so much a question on the surplus, Michelle, but I was just interested because you look at the numbers and you look at the township website and talking about the Rosso Hall. Could you elaborate, like what's anticipated to be spent this year on Rosso, and will it use up the $2 million bequest that we had?
I'm actually not a part of the working group for the Rossa Memorial Hall. Dominique would have more information on that. So I couldn't give you an answer, Councillor Bazinski.
Dominique, can you respond, please?
I am here. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. To answer your question, we are in the middle of phase 1 and 2 right now. We're in the design stage, so we are starting to spend that money, and construction is slated to start in January of 2026. So the majority of phase 1 and 2 will be completed by summer of 2027. So that's where we're at this stage.
So Dominique, like there were a number of different phases, and I strongly support all of the recommendations to do all the rejigging internal to the hall. I think when it comes to the expansion and what would happen with the firehouse and all that type of thing, I think that really is a decision that council should revisit at that point in time. That would be my opinion, and that I guess will be on a new term of council, will it? Based on your projections.
It will be, and it will also be dependent on the fundraising team that's working.
Yes. Okay. No, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Councillor Geddes next.
Thank you, Michelle. My question is, in your report, the capitals and reserves, a lot of our capital for the year is replacement of pumper 31. I understand the fire truck will be different, but the replacement of the 2 plow trucks and the replacement of the facilities plow truck and van, what will the impact be on our capital expenditures based on the new leasing agreement that we've entered into for the vehicles?
The new leasing agreement is actually reflected in the capital budget. When you look at the budget itself, you'll see that for each of those capital leases, there is a small down payment that's required up front, and then you'll see basically the stream of payments for each of those capital leases.
Thank you. I was just hoping we might have a little more money left in the capital entering into the lease agreements, that's all.
Not going to comment on whether there's any more or not, but we're definitely replacing the vehicles quickly.
Thank you very much.
Just saw one little item, Michelle, that keeps on popping out every time I look at the different departments. And we're 6 months into it right now, and it's memberships and subscriptions. Everything seems to be over 100%, and we've still got 6 more months to go. I don't could you clarify what that is all about, memberships and subscriptions, please?
Most of those memberships are actually paid for upfront at the beginning of the year. So things like our membership in MEPCO, which is the OMERS Corporation, our membership in FCM, our membership in AMO. All of those things are paid in either December or January, so they're all up front.
Okay, I get it now. So you split it up between the different departments then?
Based on which kind of membership it is, that's correct.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. As an ex-WSIB employee, they hardly ever give out surpluses, so let's take it when we can. Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Item is a piece of correspondence from the Sugar Lake Association asking us to readdress short-term rentals. And I think there have been some changes in the market. Certainly our neighbors are busy trying to implement them. And I guess I have a question to council. What do you think? I personally think it's time to refer it back to staff for a up-to-date analysis and come back to us. Councillor Collins?
This time it would be prudent to give it to staff. I think at this time, I think there should be a subcommittee of council to look at the Supreme or the Superior Court decision of Tiny Township. That's what seems to be on the table right now. There's been a lot of different municipalities throughout Seguin that has been dealing with or trying to deal with short-term cottage rentals. And in this particular case, this is a Superior Court decision which actually sets a precedence moving forward. So if we need time to look this over before it goes to staff, so a subcommittee of council, especially the councillors who did not vote in favor of approving the cottage rental situation, the licensing situation, should be involved in speaking about this, learning about this, reviewing this, so that we could come back to council and give them our opinion. And I'm thinking it should be either 2 or 3 councillors that voted against licensing prior to staff. But I'm thinking that if we do form this committee, we can have staff involved in it, fire building bylaw, chaired by our CAO, and then come back with a final decision and then vote on bringing licensing back for discussion. Thank you.
I just want to ask the clerk, I mean, I have absolutely no problem with people being part of a committee and reporting and working with a CAO, but can we create a committee of council midterm of the election? I don't know whether we can partly do that.
So yes, council can create a committee. I don't think you would do it at this meeting. I think you would have to go away and think about what you want to make the terms of reference and everything before you propose that to council and actually officially create that committee and adopt the terms of reference and the timing on it.
Vincent?
I would suggest that there's a special staff meeting, because if you go away with 3 people discussing it and all 3 people have the same opinions, or you only have 1 person because there was only 2 of us that voted, so like you don't have a fair, and you come back and you'll have the same argument at council. If you're don't have all of council there in a special council meeting, you might as well not do it, in my opinion, because you'll rehash it all at council. I have had many, many, many calls about, can you do something? And there's nothing we can do except send bylaw out. It's really frustrating. I have some experience with licensing. They can shut them down. As it is now, you can have, as long as they're not, you know, a parking issue, you can have 20 people in a cottage, 23 people. But if they're licensed, you can't do that. I can't do that in PEI. I have a place for 8 people. That's all that can be there. The neighbors see 10 people. They shut you down. You have to leave. So it's just, all it does is it provides you some feedback to the homeowner, the neighbor, the area where they live. So I think that it has to be a fulsome discussion with everybody in a special meeting maybe, because then we won't, you know, take it on.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor. So I think what Councillor Collins is suggesting is pretty similar to what in the previous term of council, I think you called it a subcommittee, so it was not when 3 councillors formed a committee to work with the then director of Public Works to explore the feasibility of doing more on seasonal roads. And that worked fairly well, I thought. So I would think it would work well here, but I'd want as well them to look at, I believe when the last time this was at the table, there was a bunch of municipalities that had just started licensing. I remember Lake of Bays being specifically one of them. And it's had some time to run now, and they should be looked at, and those municipalities should be consulted with to see what was successful, what was not. And I think if you use staff, a subcommittee of council using in combination with staff led by the CAO, I think you could come back with something really meaningful because I don't think you can sit in a special council meeting for a 1-day session and come to any kind of concrete conclusion. I don't think that's going to work. And I think that's maybe where we failed in the past. So I'd support it, see where it goes.
Councillor Getty has his hand up.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree that there should be, whether it's through a subcommittee. I mean, this is a Superior Court decision that's only come down right at the end of March. And I think the benefit of having a committee, when I see a subcommittee, I'm not looking at it, 2 or 3 councillors sitting locked up in a room and coming back and trying to come back with a situation or a policy or a suggestion. There's a number of legal issues that are addressed in the Superior Court decision. And the finding, it is the first real Superior Court decision that we've had come down in the province, and it gives some real definition and answers a lot of the questions that not only Seguin has had, but many other municipalities. And I think that committee would have to have the expertise of Taylor from the planning perspective, Sean from the bylaw perspective, building, the building department, and I think Jason, when it's called a subcommittee of council, I think it's really an opportunity for all of the subject matter experts from the municipal side of the house, and then representatives from this council to sit down and say, okay, this is what is contained when we really dissect what is laid out in that Superior Court decision. In fairness, I don't think anybody's really drawn it out. I saw if you didn't open the link, people wouldn't even realize the Superior Court decision was contained within the letter that was sent by Sugar Lake. So I think there needs to be time for not only staff, but council. I think that we can actually expedite time as a group, as a municipality, if we have those discussions, see where we stand legally relative to the issues that we have, what is addressed, what has been set as from a decision point of view within the Superior Court decision of affecting Tiny Township. And I support And quite frankly, I'm willing to participate if it's so chosen to on a subcommittee to look at this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski?
I just wonder if, obviously Sucker Lake, the Councillor Collins had some issues with short-term rentals on Sucker Lake, so this is probably driving it. I'm just, sorry, Sugar Lake, I'm sorry. I was wondering how many other people, councillors have had issues in their wards. And if the CAO could tell us if there's been any further action taken to enforce our bylaws by offending parties, because I know in Ward 2 there have been a couple, but they haven't been, you know, the fire and brimstone like I've experienced in the past.
Thank you, Worship. To Councillor Bazinski's question, I certainly don't have the statistics in front of me today, but I would suggest that, you know, the quality of life set of bylaws that we are actively enforcing are actively being enforced. Our mandate isn't that of issuing tickets. Our mandate is to engage and educate people first, and then we have to move to enforcement after a few engagements, and so be it. But I would, you know, I could request that information, and perhaps that's information that's relevant to this working group that wants to have a discussion about short-term rentals. But yeah, I don't have those statistics today, but happy to bring them back if that would be the desire of council, or bring it to that working group.
Yeah, I think it would be valuable for us to know, because in my experience, a licensing bylaw, you're talking about a lot of cost in terms of staff, in terms of resources, legal, and so on and so forth. I think the thinking of council was to, you know, get an idea where this was going, and I'm glad that Tiny Township has spent the money legally and otherwise to pursue it. But, you know, I would really like to see that, you know, is it worthwhile? Because I haven't in my ward had that much of an issue anymore. So thank you.
Thank you. Ted, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, it's not about, this subcommittee is not about bringing back short-term cottage rentals. It's about discussing the Superior Court's decision and how it can reflect or marry to Seguin Township in the future if we decide to go in that direction. So we have to review the Supreme Court decision first, talk with staff, and if we implement or come back to council and say, okay, yeah, let's bring back the licensing agreement and follow the direction of Tiny Township, because if it fits with Seguin, because it is a Seguin and Tiny Township are very much alike, not only in population, but in homes and everything else. And they've spent the money. And if you actually read this, there's, you know, they're making some sense here, and it's already been implemented, and it's setting a precedence. So for us not to look at the Superior Court decision would be crazy, because we're not talking about bringing back short-term rentals until we've studied this with staff. That's where I'm at right now.
Thank you very much. What I would like to suggest is that we consider a working group to review this the Superior Court thing. The Superior Court in BC has also ruled. They did it several months ago. So you've got a couple provinces. There are some very profitable townships making money on licensing. And for many, It is the stepping stone to a municipal accommodation tax. So what I'd like to suggest, I don't think we can create anything without a terms of reference. What I'd like to suggest is that today we turn it back to staff to draft the terms of reference for a working group and maybe a first crack at the can of who might sit on that and bring that back to our next meeting so that we really have, no matter what you do in a committee, you need to know what you're supposed to come up with the answer. So I think the first thing is the terms of reference, and then maybe who or what qualifications we need on it. Maybe if we're reviewing the Superior Court decision, we need Ed Velblum there, the lawyer. I don't know, because I can't comment on a Superior Court ruling and know what it affects me. Are you comfortable taking that?
Your worship, I am. I think to sort of expedite the process, I'd be happy to take lead on drafting terms of reference. And what I've heard is Councillor Collins and Councillor Getty both suggest they would be interested in participating, and I'd be happy to engage with them on that drafting of the terms of reference so that when it comes back, at least some members of council that are interested have had a say in the development of those terms of reference. So if that's the direction that council's comfortable with, I'm happy to take that away and engage with the two councillors of, I don't putting words in your mouth, but I did hear Councillor Getty say that, and obviously Councillor Collins is suggesting that he would like to participate. So I'm happy to work with them on this.
Okay, we have Councillor Adams has had his hand up for a few minutes.
No, I just want to say, I haven't had many complaints either. Actually, I haven't had any. But even if you introduce licensing again with strict regulations, you're going to eliminate a lot of the trouble ones on the weekends. You're going to eliminate a lot of the troublemakers if the regulations are strict. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I think you're going to get rid of some of the offenders, but I think you're also going to increase the safety for renters. But I do think the first step is terms of reference. So if that can be direction to staff to bring back some terms of reference, are people comfortable with that as the next step? Sure. Okay. Council reports. Councillor Adams?
I really don't have anything.
Did do anything?
I didn't do it.
You have half my list next.
I did have somebody come to my house and complain about Horseshoe Lake Road. That's all I had in the last 2 weeks. So that's my report. I'm sorry.
Councillor Bazinski.
Yeah, thank you. I attended the Ice Cap meeting in at the Stocky Center, and yeah, it was a very good meeting, and they had the booth set up in the Stocky Center to show people about living better electrically, I guess, and so that was quite good. And yeah, I've had a number of discussions with people in my ward as well, but I'm trying to go through the appropriate staff to get them resolved. Thank you.
Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the pleasure of going to the Air Cadets graduation in Nobel. It was fantastic. Great bunch of young people, and very lucky to have them in the community. I also had a committee of adjustment meeting, and I've had a large number of phone calls and been dealing with staff in regards to a couple of issues with it, and they've been very helpful as well. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a meeting of the new Perry Sound Health and Wellness, whatever the official name is, AKA the pool. It was a great movie. It was a great, again, another very positive meeting. We've had quite a few of them lately. Of note, the contractor seems to be firmly, on schedule, on budget, on time. Nothing is phasing them, nothing's surprising them. Really can't say enough so far about their performance. It's just, it's great. We've been proceeding along now into more, what are we going to do when, you know, how we're going to run this place when we get it open, because it's going to be open in less than a year now. So our CAO's done an outstanding job keeping the building going and doing all the little day-to-day things that someone needs to do. He and his team. So I think very commendable. I had a park to park meeting. It was sort of an interesting meeting, and we've decided there's a bridge in the east side of Seguin that has to be replaced. It's critical that it's replaced. They will not be able to use it this year for groomers, so they'd have to close that section of trail. So until we figure everything out, we are going to devote 100% of our resources in raising money and arranging the financing to get this bridge in motion this fall, so so the trail can stay open this winter. And that's all I have to report for now.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a regular meeting of DSAB and just taking care of Ward 5 business. It's constant. So, and I'm really glad to hear about Cogeco. I know that you're probably going to mention this, are you? Anya? Why? Oh, okay. Yeah, Cogeco's live. They've energized. So isn't that nice? We've got high-speed internet in Orville, of all places, in Seguin Township. So my wife said to me today, once I didn't want to tell her, but and then I went, she says, well, you better get it. We want it. We need it. So I guess I'll be probably one of the first residents, getting putting in an application or whatever you have to do and getting servicing. So I'm very happy I'm very pleased that this has been going on for a number of years and finally it's here. So I'm really pleased about that. So
Your next step is to book an appointment with Cogeco.
yes, thank you, Lan.
Councillor Finson.
I dealt with some emails about dogs in the neighborhood and their stuff being left behind. So I'm still dealing with those, and I think I've got it under control. On June the 7th, I went to the spring opener for the Lake Russell North Association. It was lovely, well attended, beautiful place. I had a Russell Memorial Hall meeting at the hall. We're preparing for our first event. Our first event will be partnered with the Lake Russell North Association on July the 12th at the Russell Lake College. So they're partnering with us to raise money at that event. I had a DSAB meeting on forget what date it was, but last week. On the 14th, I went to the Russell Lake College Gala. Was well attended. It was beautiful. The food was to die for. It was a very, very beautiful event. I can't remember what else I did, but I have a lot coming up in the next few weeks. I don't think I have a spare day, but anyway, that was a good month. Thank you.
Good. Well, a couple of the things you people have mentioned I was at, but one of the things I do want to mention is that the chair of the Recreation and Culture Center is now Dale Robinson, Mayor of McDougall, and the co-chair is Jamie McGarvey. So as chair, Mayor Robinson is going through everything in great detail. So I spent a couple hours with them on June 3rd, reviewing all of the files on fundraising. And I think we finally got some agreement on who can see who's given money. June 5th, Ted and I both attended the business committee meeting, and things are working towards the next mayor's lunch will be on October 2nd. So you should put that on your calendar. It'll be similar format to last year at Seguin Valley Golf and Country Club with a speaker. And there will be 9 holes of golf afterwards, which is voluntary if people want to do it. I attended the spring opening that Gail mentioned for Lake Rosso North Association. And any of the meetings about Lake Rosso North, they talk an awful lot about Cameron Bay. On June 10th, we had an airport commission meeting. Then on the 11th was the formal West Perry Sound Recreation and Culture meeting. I also was at the Ice Cap meeting, and I have to say it was great speakers, good trade show, and Seguin Township had a fantastic representation there. I think with 5 of us there and many of the other West Perry Sound municipalities with no representation. So we put on a nice show that we care about our environment just by being there. Then last Friday was the Safe Quiet Lakes annual general meeting. It's always well attended by, well, there were 7 OPP officers from the Marine Division. There was a professor from the US about wave damage. It was a fantastic meeting. I've put some cards out at the front. Safe Quiet Lakes is going into its 3rd or 4th survey of lake residents, and it opens tomorrow. They are now being recognized by Transport Canada and apparently in the US as having created the largest database of lake resident concerns in North America. And they're hoping for 10,000 respondents this summer. So pick up a card or circulate it to your lake associations. It's all online. Get them to fill out what's important to them. 2 other big things that were talked about there was the floating accommodations, which you've seen in your correspondence here. Their concern about people living on accommodations. And I guess there's some in Midland where the people are living there, the kids are going to school, they're using the hospitals, and they don't pay any taxes. So not to mention the effluent from floating accommodation. So it's a big issue. And the other big issue that came directly from the OPP is they're really looking hard at mandatory PFD wearing on all lakes and water bodies in Canada. Of the 8 marine deaths that have happened since January, only 1 was wearing a life jacket. And then I also attended on Saturday, I attended the closing ceremonies, which is the graduation in the morning of the students from Rosso Lake College. And then the gala opening of their athletic facility, and it is spectacular. And they don't have any bleachers yet. It's on their wish list. They did. Couple reminders. This Friday, Rosso Waterfront is the family fun night. Hope to see everybody there. Then, well, actually before Friday, no, next Thursday. Next Thursday is the council barbecue. You've all got an assignment of what you're to bring. And June 28th in Orville is the Canada Day celebrations starting at 11. And I don't know about you, but I've got a list and I'm checking off how many pothole phone calls I get. I've had quite a few of them in the last few weeks. So
She's got one of the smallest words. I can't believe it.
yeah, but I got I've got a lot of gravel roads. Anyways, that's my report. Over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to piggyback on your comments, Seguin Family Fun Night is coming up this Friday at the Rosso Waterfront. Reminder, this is a free annual event and will feature live music, bouncy castles, a barbecue, and much, much more. All are welcome. Councillor Fellner just whispered in my ear what time, and I don't recall when it kicks off, but we'll get back to, I think it's 6 o'clock. Sounds about right, 5:30. 5:30. As we heard earlier this afternoon, our official plan review process is going to continue to advance. Just wanted to thank those that joined us today and provided some feedback. A second open house with the full draft will be held on the 3rd, Thursday, July 3rd from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Humphrey Community Center. please feel free to log on to letsconnectseguin.ca for all the details. The Seguin Recreation and Culture Committee is hosting a community dance this Saturday night at the Humphrey Community Center. And again, a Canada Day celebration in Oroville is coming up on the 28th. Watch our social media and websites for details. The township also still has some food cyclers unit available for residents. Just a reminder, these are countertop composters, which reduce the amount of waste going to our landfill while providing users with nutrient-rich soil amendment for plants and gardens. Again, log on to the website seguin.ca/waste for any details. And as was briefly discussed earlier in the meeting, the Rosso Memorial Hall restoration project is underway. The fundraising team is hosting their first event July 12th at Rosso Lake College in collaboration with the Lake Rosso North Association. Watch their social media and Seguin website for all the details. That's it for me, Your Worship.
Thank you. Busy week, and it's going to get busier. Do you have something to add? Sir.
Sorry, I forgot in my report that, Cogeco, well, Bell Canada is also continuing to work in the area. I got notice for my water access property that if they want to come from the box right up to the house, that they'll be happy to do it, but you have to give them permission. So, and it's Mike's Communication that I think is doing the construction. So just it might be worth putting that out as a note to people in the area that they won't come on your property unless they get a waiver from you.
Did you get a letter or a door hanger?
I had neither.
Oh.
But I've been keeping up to date because the submarine cable came right up to our property, so I've been talking to them.
Okay, yes, Mike's is doing some, Pickard's doing some. I just want to advise you that you will either get a letter or a door hanger. Bell is not phoning people, and many people have received phone calls that are spam, asking you to push 1 if you'd like to schedule a date. That is not Bell Canada. Bell Canada will only communicate in writing or with a door hanger. So just be cautious. But yes, the underground or the submarine cables are being laid as quickly as they can.
Yeah, I got a letter and they wanted me to reply by email.
Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the correspondence as presented on the agenda for June 16th, 2025 meeting of council. Gail and Mario. All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby proceed to a closed meeting at 4:39 p.m. in order to address matters pertaining to advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege and a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. Could I have a mover? Ken and Mario. All in favor? Thanks. People want a little break. Okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby rise from the closed session and declare the regular meeting reconvened at 5:05 p.m. I have a Mario and a Gail. All in favor? Okay, so we have 2 things we have to do. I have a motion that pursuant to the Municipal Act of 2001, SO 2001 C25, as amended, the Corporation of the Township of Seguin bylaw number 98-03, as amended, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby declare the following property surplus to its needs and intends to sell part of Lot 114, Concession B, former Township of Foley, now Township of Seguin, District of Perry Sound, property roll number 4903-030-010, 00499 18 McCaig Road, known as Foley Fire Station 10-2. Could I have a mover? Mario? Terry? All in favor? Okay, and the last one, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby authorize the awarding of request for proposal Perry Sound Area Municipal Airport and Business Park Valuation to Capital Asset Valuation, Inc. at a cost not to exceed $90,000 plus applicable taxes and authorized disbursements as outlined in the RFP. Costs of the project to be paid 50% by the Corporation of the Township of Seguin and 50% by the Corporation of the Town of Seguin. Perry Sound, sorry. Okay. Yeah. Ken, all in favor? Thank you. Equally. And I have a motion, the bylaw number 2025-050, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Mario and Ken. All in favor? And I motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this meeting of council at 5:07 PM to meet again on Monday, July 7th, 2025, or at the call of the mayor. Terry Fellner and Ted Collins, all in favor? And happy Canada Day, everybody.